various Chai Shri Shakti programs here in Mumbai as well as in Nagpur. I'm also saving Manisha for one of the group interactions like this. So very soon we're going to do one focus session with her. We're going to start talking on that and kind of decide. But like Geetika was saying, we were just discussing when I realized that you're coming today, that after we kind of finished, we would love you to even share your thoughts on this program and this topic. You know? So that's one thing that is there. Moving on to you.
Anita, we've covered.
Yeah.
I'm Shania. I'm from Johnson & Johnson. So I worked with the innovations team there. I'm a product designer from NIT. I currently work with the diabetes care franchise, where we are coming up with a pipeline of products for diabetes care in India, products and services. So the whole thing is about, we work based off customer insights driven innovation is our core, and we bring about innovations.
So sorry, because I missed a little bit. You're saying you're working with Johnson & Johnson currently, and which department did you say?
Medical devices.
Medical devices. So are you also planning to start something of your own, or do you want to kind of apply, the design and to this, job that you're doing currently?
So you're asking about my intent of
or how this program, is.
So this was introduced through my boss actually. So he said it would be a good forum to just meet up and learn about, because what we're trying to do is
I think he's a member of Chai from this.
Yes.
So who's that?
Between
Katrani.
yes. So this is just a forum for me to meet different people and understand how they look at innovation. I'm sure everybody is doing innovation at some level, and we can apply that in our.
So your expectations from today would be to
just see how different people are applying innovation in their own field.
maybe some inspiration. When did you pass out?
2012.
Yeah, Radhika.
Yeah, hello. I'm Radhika Kalera from Blossom Child Routine Solutions. I'm basically a child hooker. We work towards creating safer environment for kids, that is to minimize the early childhood injuries. The target audience for us from 0 to 6 to 7 years age group. And we basically conduct services, like we do the safety audit at home as well as schools, as daycare centers, wherever kids are there, we help to create a safer environment for them.
So do you design workspaces around for kids, moving spaces, play and all?
No, it is in normal house. We just help parents to understand what can be a potential hazard for a child, and accordingly we have the tools with us, and we provide those tools. We do the installation from our side.
A tool is like a product?
Yeah,
or
these are the products.
So they're, for example, corner edges or gates or...
Very true. There are safety gates, cabinet locks, corner cushions,
Very interesting.
edge guards.
Isn't too much of this in India, isn't it?
We have one for the first few years.
How long have you been in this business?
Almost for a year now.
Yeah. And you have an outlet, or do you need to be...
No, not an outlet. Me and my partner, I'm operating from Mumbai and she is operating from Pune now.
So very interesting.
And she is helping us a lot.
So they're doing some very interesting work, and I think both of them have got a lot of energy. So my recommendation would be that if anybody wants to look at their house or schools and you want to recommend, please feel free. We do some free surveys to at least give you some kind of ballpark figure as to what kind of things should you do besides the estimate, but even what are the hazards. So that's, I think, some interesting work happening.
And we also teach CPR. We conduct workshops at schools as well as pediatric clinics, mainly for the new parents, where we teach them all about the safety at home, and also we teach them the CPR, that is a cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So in case of an emergency, how to react. It is a basic of first aid. And now, like very soon, we realize that all these products which are mainly made in China, or but according to the US or Australian standards, so they are not good for our climate, not according to our requirement or according to our climatic situation. So now very soon we are launching our first product, maybe in coming month, and that is the edge guard thing, to minimize the users and terms.
So the other thing into product designing, I think this session would also be helpful because we're talking about products.
The product is almost like ready by the time, but we are more concerned now about the packaging thing.
Right. So your expectations also from packaging. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Hi, I'm Geetika.
If you can shift a little bit, I think it just might give space to these two women, maybe a little bit here and a little bit there. So we are fit well.
Sorry, for crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Geetika, and I, along with Pushpita, she is having a brand called Murshia, which is manufacturing bags and footwears. So I and her, we are planning to come up with t-shirts. You know, t-shirts, new concept of t-shirts which are not there in the market. So we are just in the research and R&D process, that what is there in the market, what brands are offering, what prices are there, and looking at everything. We are in the process of developing something new which the market is not offering in terms of t-shirts.
Okay. So you already have a distribution system and everything in place for your bags and footwear, or do you
See,
do it out?
I am not associated with that. I just yeah, I am starting a new line.
Ishita.
Ishita. Yes. So I thought that this session will be definitely helpful in the sense that, how we can also incorporate some ideas from the session and get some insights.
So would you expect this course to give you ideas related to design? Or
Ideas
to
on what,
business or-
just knowing what everybody is doing, and then you can learn something from the session, of course. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Hello, and I'm Shweta. I have done my apparel costing management from NIFT. So basically, I am into making the costumes into garments and the export house assessment. Meanwhile, I started working with Mahvim, that is Mahila Arthik, that is a women empowerment of the government of Maharashtra. So I just looking out for that if I get an opportunity as a CSR for those women. So I thought
What does this NGO do?
see, Mahavim is basically they help women, they fund them for taking trainings or developing
Vocational
something.
training? Some kind of vocational training?
See, I am into garments, so I'm working as a consultant to them. So I'm only concerned with garments, but yes, they give vocational training, food training. Basically, they want to give them livelihood.
So the name of the NGO again, please?
Mahavim.
Okay. Are you also associated with KVO by any chance? I was expecting a couple of women from there.
Mahavim.
Mahavim, Mahila Arthik Vikasman. It is Pratibha Tai Patil's initiative.
Okay.
So just as a matter of CSR. if I understand.
So what are you expecting here? What would be a good session?
See, I am basically into product development. I have been doing sampling for a very long time for different brands. Now, whatever my creativity is there, I've been earning for a long time. Now, I want to convert it to the women empowerment. I have my own website. We are working on the e-commerce platform. Now, I want this platform to be for women empowerment, so that if we can train as maximum of women, and through CSR or e-commerce platforms, if we can give them a market. So basically, we are working on that. So I got it at a very short notice about this. So if I can know how to do a more in product development in a very different way, we would like to.
Great.
I believe you would be looking more at micro women entrepreneurs. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bhavi's Barucha and I'm from DBS Office Business Center. I head the marketing and business development there. We have DBS, to say a short this on DBS. DBS has 7 centers pan India. And being an office business center, which means that we give out space on rent for entrepreneurs. It could be if you have a small business, if you're wanting to launch a product, then that would be an ideal place. We would take care of all. So generally, it is renting out space with all the services attached to it. So it is very simple, like you want to have an office but you don't want to have the headache of the overheads and the rest of the things to be taken care of. A business center normally takes care of all that. I'm here as a last minute decision actually, but earlier to this job I had done products. I was with Arabian Nights. Before that I was working with traders in where I launched Ava. It's a natural mineral water. So product designing is something which I would be interested to know what is the new change. In Arabian Nights we had launched a product called Spa at Home. So this was a process I'd done then. Retail was something like a passion to me then. I shifted to this because hospitality industry also. I had worked with the Taj Group of Hotel many years, so I was more comfortable with the hospitality industry.
Are you looking at starting out something again in that space?
Maybe. I'm not really very sure. I would want to really start something new, but I have few ideas in mind where I could maybe take it up later on at a later level.
What did you do with Ava?
Ava natural mineral water, we had actually launched the water in Bombay. It's two institutions. We launched it.
I've had it on a flight.
Yes, yeah. So you'll find it in Air India, SpiceJet. Then we'd only given it to restaurants. We've done a little bit of retail, but then I think certain budget limits didn't permit us.
This was your own business?
No, that's not my own business. I was working for a company called Traders Inn.
And your role there was?
There, I had just started as a business development manager. So,
Ridhima, do you?
Yes, please say a few words.
Hi, my name is Ridhima. I work with Geetika at Future Factory and I'm a design researcher there. So basically, I come from a fashion background and then moved into research and social research and design research. So we basically research on lifestyle and how we can support product design through research, and so informed designers help them to design better products.
Do you want to just give up the idea?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we are actually doing an initiative which is called India Design Initiative, and we are trying to understand what design means to India. And so I'll be giving you the badges. You can log on to our website and check some things that we are doing. We are actually interviewing people on the streets and understanding what common people think about industrial design.
I think the idea really is to, through programs such as TIE, etc., what kind of knowledge sharing can we bring to the table to help people. So idea is a 6 to 9 month program where we're meeting industry, we're meeting people on the streets, and we're meeting groups of people. So while we continue to reach out and do our bit, it also helps for us to get a little bit of feedback and research on this so that we can do a better job. Yeah.
So before we start this session formally,
I think it's finished because I think a lot of people may not have met them.
Okay, you all want to introduce
Just
yourself
very
again,
quickly,
Sana?
because I think a lot of people came in little later. Sana?
Okay, I'm Sana.
Sana's a lawyer. And let me try.
Please, you go ahead.
Sana's a lawyer, very talented, multifaceted person. She's had her own boutique. She's okay. She's done counseling now. Also works with an NGO, and she's looking at new opportunities that may come her way. So I think here to really understand that.
You miss the painter part.
I miss the painter.
Anything else? No?
That's it.
So, Priya, why don't you try from
Okay, I don't think I've written the notes
Okay, I'm Hina. I'm into fashion jewelry, fashion designer jewelry, and me and my partner Bela, both of us have founded this RCA jewelry. We supply to a lot of designer stores like and Global Basic and Interrompe, and we have a flagship store at Opera House, Lamington Road.
I'm just going to send my cards around. Let me know there's a website and an email address. A lot of times we chat a lot.
We might need to give a few more.
Yeah, sure. So no, I've got
yeah. So friends, for those who don't know me, I think we don't have Sri Shakti. And the whole idea of this program is when Geetika and we were talking, and we said, we find a lot of women are in the design field per se. So you will have a lot of women in fashion designing, graphical designing, all sorts of designs. So that was one thought. So one, we are planning to see how can we start engaging that group of women who are largely either freelancers or having their own studios to help them grow and scale their businesses. There was one section which we had a common chat about. Secondly is that, if you see any product, as you see as a consumer, it's not that every time you buy something, you maybe buy it more for utility, but you may not be really floored by the design. And we all have faced that as consumers. So whether you're a male entrepreneur or a woman entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. What's really shipping out of your factory may not be something which is ideal in terms of design. And it's also probably with the history of India, we've come from survival backgrounds, we've tried to have a tight economy, and we said, okay, basic stuff, let's at least get going, let's at least survive. And we always felt design or designer stuff is always very expensive, so let's keep away from it. So that is when you're trying to buy as consumers, but even as entrepreneurs, when you're trying to produce something, we miss out the point that if our products are better designed, they'll actually gain better marketability, they'll be better appreciated, and actually we'll scale much better. So we meet entrepreneurs day in and day out, and whether men and women have said that we find that it's after a point it becomes run of the mill. So how many times can you go and buy products which look similar or have a little tacky design, just for the sake of survival? The other thing is that I think the ecosystem is really growing. The buying power is increasing, whatever in terms of, if we look at the Nifties, etc. But as consumers on the ground, we see that the capacity for people to buy products is increasing. The people have started working at a younger age, women have also started working, there is double income. So people are ready to put in a little bit more and get good products. So this whole session was, if there are people who are also creating or manufacturing products, how can they grow their businesses by having better designed products or packaged products? So that is the whole concept of this, program that we're doing. What we also would like you to do at the end of the program, to kind of give us either feedback right now or over email, and even suggestions we would like upfront immediately after the program. What are the kind of programs that you want us to do in future? So, besides this, where we pick out our own things, thinking, oh, this may be a challenge, where is it that you are actually facing a challenge? So we can kind of design a program around that. Now to introduce Geetika, our speaker for today, a very dear friend. She's a managing partner at Future Factory. And I'm going to let her introduce herself in detail. I'm sure all of you have seen her profile. But she's a very dear friend. She's an entrepreneur and a designer into industrial design. So Geetika, over to you, and then over to your presentation.
I think we just get down to brass tacks. Future Factory essentially is started as a product design company. And we've been in the business for about 20-25 years now. Halfway through our journey, we realized that just doing only design sometimes isn't enough, because you need to be able to make designs work for business and make designs work for manufacturing. And so today we're actually a new product development company. We've built capabilities starting from research and strategy, right through industrial design and engineering, and taking it into prototyping. We also have a factory where we do new designs, new materials. We run batch production for 6 months, 3 years, depending on projects that come up. Design actually is a very generalized word. It's like quality. For those who've read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, quality, he's written a whole book on it, and still at the end of it you don't have a definition, right? So like Z mentioned, we've been looking to, we know that design is a field which is very easily adaptable by women and very easily adaptable to the entrepreneurial community as well. A lot of designers, professional or trained or untrained, prefer to start up on their own rather than work for big businesses. So the overlap between entrepreneurship and design and women is very strong. And so Z and me have been working on the sidelines to do little programs like this. But upfront, I'm gonna put a lot of weight behind what she said. It'll be great to just for 5 or 10 minutes at the end to really understand is there scope for an interest group related to design? What kind of programs can we run around that? Okay, so
Move the laptop a little on the right towards yourself. Should we switch off a few lights? Or
I think they can see you.
are you happy this way?
Okay, what, just give me a second, I'll just put it on screen quickly and then, sorry, see. That's not working. Is there a mouse on this thing? That's better. Right. Okay. A little bit of an introduction. The work we do may seem very specialized. I'm very bad at names, which is why I keep writing everything down. So I hope you don't find this very rude, but Sharanya will probably see a lot of sense in this, in the first few slides, because it's exactly what you might have been taught at NIT. But that's just an introduction. The process of design is usually the same everywhere. I have just 3 or 4 slides that, it's a lot later, but there's just 3 or 4 slides we're going to share on what design can do. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I'm looking through what expectations are on design, there have been a lot of people who want packaging, and packaging will follow the same process like product does. But there are also a lot of people who have looked at design tips, mentoring new businesses related to design, looking and seeing what opportunities can come up, and how they can understand the basic business of design, where their contribution is more in business terms, and maybe the design is done by someone else. So here again, 3-4 slides will give you an overview, right? There are some people who have come here to look for ideas on business and inspiration. I think a discussion will be very helpful there. And there's one person I thought was very interesting, Nina actually. How can design do more? How can I make more money and make my business do better? And there's one slide very useful there. So just a little bit there, and once we're done with that, please let's, I think, move into question answer and see how to take that forward. Okay, very quickly on who we are. Does this need to be focused a bit? Ridhima, can you reach out, love?
I think this is the fonts.
It's, I think, just a bit of a focus might help. Yeah,
that's
much better. Great. So it's really this picture on the right, which is what I was telling you about. We started with the orange band, industrial design, and say that we do design. And then we realized that if you want to actually make a product successful, any launch successful, you have to be able to take care of everything before and after. And when you're working with something very new, everything around also changes. And in our case, we work as a consultancy to companies, and therefore we need to supplement the company with research and commercial production, etc. But even in our own businesses, sometimes our supply chain will change with a new product. Sometimes our packaging will mean we work with new vendors. So you almost certainly have the greens, which are to do with business thinking, and you have the pinks or the magentas, which have to do with the delivery of that design. And that's, I think, the first thing that we all, I think as entrepreneurs, we know, but that's the impact that we need to bring in.
So I think there's a version of this presentation that will come to you later on, so in case you're not seeing it.
Yeah. This is about IDI. I'm not going to spend time on this, but you can check the website out and tell us what you think. We'd be very happy to hear about the program and what we're doing. Quickly, so this is a typical process. And if you look at industrial design, it comes right up here, right here. But before that, you actually start up by defining your opportunities. So it's very interesting because everybody here seems to be saying that. I know I need a new product. I'm not sure what it is. I know I need to start a men's line, but I'm not clear about exactly what that is. Men's is an opportunity because I can, leverage my business there. Very often, design needs to work at that point. For example, with Supriya talking about diabetes. Now we've worked on an insulin pen. The brief would be, we need to get an insulin pen at this price, circumventing this patent. That could be one brief. Another way to do it maybe is, here are these people, my customers, my consumers, and this is their situation, and this is why current products are not meeting their requirements. And this is a need gap. And therefore, what kind of a solution can help to frame that need gap? And as designers, if we start early enough to say how can we frame that need gap, then the kind of specification you come up with your packaging or your product may be different. So if you come up with a packaging and you say that I need a box, please design a box which can do this, etc. Maybe it would have been better to have a blister pack, like a mouse pad, because you're looking at larger volumes and plastic is very, very cheap when it's blow molded. You may not even need an injection molded piece, and therefore that would be a great brief. But if you start with a brief saying, give me a box, then that's what you may land up with. And similarly, if you say you have an injection, a pen, then that's what you get. Whereas if you come and say that you need another service, that can be a monitoring service online, then that might make much more sense for people. So that's a helpful tip to start with. That's a helpful tip to start with. The magentas are about different capabilities. Now, when you're doing an insulin pen, you know that you're doing injection molding technique, so you need a vendor who can do that. You know you're going to be making mass production because you're a big company, and therefore you need to get plastic at so many tons, and therefore the design must deliver to the last gram. When you're doing luxury watches, you say that I'm expecting to sell only 1,000 pieces or so, and so I can put a little more money, but I want to stand out. I don't want to look like a Calvin Klein. So how do I make myself a little bit? So the brief then means that even the end part has to be considered at the time of design, and I think even in graphics you will be doing that all the time. Okay, so just very briefly on the full process. Please, questions we can take. I'm just giving you a broad overview now. This is the kind of work that we have expertise on. A lot of work on devices, medical devices and appliances. We've done a lot of diabetes management. We've done a lot of refrigerators, washing machines. We've got patents in both areas. Fuel dispensing as industrial equipment, which is a very B2B kind of requirement. Healthcare, very strong. Services and products. Packaging, we've done some work there. Retail design also, and on water. Okay, so that's who we are.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Designing water.
On water. So, see, people came to us and said, design a water filter, because we're in the business of making water filters. And we did that. And then we told them that you should not look at coming to us and saying, give us better shape on this water filter, because design can actually do so much more, and you're not even using the potential of how it can help your business, which are the next few slides. So we said, for a company, Eureka Forbes, working in the area of water filters, why don't you enter the area of water bottles or water supply, since you're in so strong here and you have your distribution everywhere. So we worked with them on a kind of an idea, a new business idea, which would result in products and services that we had to design for them in that area. We also did manufacturing for using a completely new internal engineering. We have make certain water filters for small businesses. So if you have a side motor showroom or something, because the offices are about 100 people, 50 people. The normal electric Eureka folks won't work and they can't set up a plant. So can you have something intermediate? So again, you discuss an opportunity, you find a need gap, and then you say, so the product spec should be that you have online water, not a storage solution, but it has so much literage, and it should be sturdy, etc. And then so we actually did the production for that for 3 years and handed it over. So those are 3 or 4 different kinds of opportunities. So water is an area we do services in water, pay for use kind of stuff. Is that too complex? It's not. It is for us. Okay, so I mean, in very, very simple language, I think the fact is we moved out from designing a shape of something. And the world over, design has begun to do a lot more than just the shape. And it's very important that as entrepreneurs, we expect more from people who work for us. For us, every bit of money that we put out is a lot. Someone was saying she needs to check on the kind of website, yeah, and you're not happy with it. It's true, even for large companies, I'm sure even J&J is demanding from its vendors. So, not to call a design company and say, give me a better shape, because that's not going to help business. Today, everything looks good. So how do you demand more from design? Even if it's a packaging, or if it's a new product, or if it's a garment, how can I be different, and how can design help me get that extra value for my business? Is the question we should be asking. And therefore, that is important to us. And there's a very simple 4-quadrant slide here. This is what is basically expected from design. And this was expected 20 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. About 15 years ago, the whole world started expecting more, but in India we're a little slow. We're not a very developed design market. So our expectations from design are still a little backward, like Z mentioned. So we still say, okay, you know what, here's Hindustan Lever will come and tell you why I need a new shampoo bottle. Give me 5 shapes. Luckily they've moved ahead from that now. But they may come and say that, or they may come and say, so I want a new shape because I have to launch this in Diwali. But can you add a new feature to this bottle? Can you make it tamper-proof so that people can't, break it and put fake shampoo inside, sunsilk inside and sell it? Or can you make it easy to use so that, it pours out easily? So can you add functionality to the aesthetics of the product? In India, we're still here. We still, at best, we expect this, and we think that might be expensive, it's a little risky, but this is as much as we would expect from design. But world over, design actually gives you 2 more things, and that's where the business value is coming in. Number 3 is on the brand. Design has a lot to do with brand. And it's not only a good-looking product that delivers, but something that makes you special. So how can I come up with Aspen, and that kind of packaging will look like Aspen? Not because I'm putting tons of money behind it and writing Aspen and telling everyone about it, but something about the design that I can own. Or something about that pen, about that insulin device that looks J&J and not like GE or any other company. So brand becomes very, very important, and I think as entrepreneurs we know that brand is something that's very critical to us. The 4th quadrant is the riskiest. The risk moves from 1, 2, 3, 4 as we go up. And if you've seen in the earlier process chart, we have these little grey bands coming down. The more money you put in, the more you should be careful about the risk. So the process has risk assessment, and we should be able to use that process irrespective of how complex it is. If we are designing a healthcare device, we may have 9 months to do that, and we may have a full process. If we're designing a new product or a new packaging, it's still important to us. So a process can follow that, okay, here I have these ideas. Now, when I make that decision, how do I cut the risk? Do I do some testing? Do I do some consumer testing? Do I do some, if that product is going to be transported in long distances, maybe it's not the consumer testing, maybe it's a supply chain test. Do I just give it to Blue Dart and check how it lands up in Delhi at the end of the day? So there are different ways to cut risk through that. Number 4 is really about something very new. And it's very important to know that the moment you move into 4, you're dealing with risk at a different level. And you have to be ready to do that. Everyone wants something very new, but everyone wants it at the lowest risk, which is contrary to the idea. So when you look for a new packaging or a new product line or a new, how do you come as, understand for yourself, can your business withstand that risk? You may be willing to take a big leap and say, I have these funds and I'm going to bet big, but I want to be huge here. And then you take a big risk with that and say, I'm going to get into that. Or you say, like Manisha's business, you say that I have all of this. Now taking this, can I just, turn a little bit to the right by 5 degrees and can I just leverage my business in a big way? So there are different appetites for risk. Sometimes you're working in an industry where you have to take a big leap because everyone around you is jumping so fast. So a small leap may not help, right? This, I think, is key.
Would it be okay if like something like this, if I could add a little?
Sure,
to that?
sure.
I did a whole Harvard research course on exactly the strategy, okay, where they spoke about the future and innovation is what it is. Just to give you a quick example, between IBM, Apple had lost all its money and they had dropped, okay, and they brought Steve Jobs back here. IBM was right here, and you know that they had to, they lost everything and they were ready to file for bankruptcy. What was the difference? Apple had almost 50% of the money kept aside for innovation. Today they came back with a bang and they were ready to take the risk. It was a lot of money in there. IBM had reached a stage where they were so large, they had broken up into different verticals and they were not putting in any funds into innovation. They thought what they had was fabulous. Even now, IBM charges far higher than what the product is worth it. People don't love IBM, they need it, so it's a forced product on you. Where Apple made you love the product, which is where she brought the brand building in. This is just giving an example between these two strategies. Today, IBM had to change the entire strategy. People were in black suits and working on those thoughts. It changed the atmosphere. This is where the innovation idea comes through. After Steve Jobs, the first thought within Apple is, will they be able to continue with that risk taking, because you need someone with an aesthetic idea. I won't take away more time, I'll take more on it, why women are so strong on the aesthetic part. We are
Shamla, you have anything on wit, on the branding? Is there any work in the area of branding on wit?
There is a need. We are doing it, so
that's a very interesting opportunity because jams today are very commercial. Most other products, I'm not talking about jam because I love it, but many other products would be commercial. But in some of the research that we've done, we found that unlike what people think, Indians don't always buy what's the cheapest. And there are other reasons that make you buy products, and a lot of times they are emotional. In wit, I think it's the goodness of the fruit that you can see in the jam, and if the design can bring that out better, it would be great.
Because it's homemade. Is it because it's homemade, not on your garden? It's a homemade recipe which is we carry, but there's a facility where we manufacture.
But it's still, but the connotation is that it's craft based because it has a social connotation.
So because
there's a goodness to it.
They are homemade and therefore always better freshness is there, less chemicals, less additives.
Yeah, all those are there. We use only fresh fruits and minimum preservatives. We don't add flavors. So the wholeness of the fruit is there. It's just that when it's a consumable product, so there are health issues that are. So it needs to be manufactured on a facility which is completely controlled. So we need to do that. So you can't make like our other products can be made at home, but a food product cannot be made at home because then all these licenses and food issues and health issues that come up. So that needs to be very regulated.
Does anyone have where would you see this work for you?
I'm not still very clear with what are you trying to convey with respect to innovation. If you could just explain it some other example. I mean, I can relate with what you said, but if you bring that to something that,
Give me a product.
like for example, let's talk about
I'll talk about Aspen.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
from that
I didn't want to
perspective-
talk as I usually. Okay, Aspen started with the aesthetics. Just to give you a brief, I started in the business in 2000. I brought in around 10 brands, Fossil, Kambli, Armani, DMG. All the brands were brought in by us. We built the brand to a stature and it was going away. So what I learned over the years is while I was merchandising and purchasing and working with them is the aesthetics and what people wanted. I worked with people on the floor. The best thing was if you suddenly have something going away, either close down or if you have the passion to create something new. Manufacturing something we didn't know, which is what I really thought, Geetika, when I met you last was a different story. I'm really impressed with what you're doing now.
Really?
Okay, we'll come back to that later. So when Aspen came in, I said, okay, a watch, everyone has a watch. What can I do different? And being a woman, the only woman in the watch industry, and we did a focus group on the entire product. We realized 80% of the watches in India sold were to men and 20% were to women. And even the products given out on the counters was always, if you go into a Titan counter, Casio counter, Fossil, you'll see 80% of the selections for men and 20%. So that's why we decided to work with. But if I just created a woman's watch, why would Aspen stand out versus something else? So what we did was aesthetics. I was confident of my aesthetics, understanding the product and how it does. I could functionality, unique timekeeping device, but what we went to is the feeling. So we started, Aspen was time is on my side. The idea was that the woman today wants something that makes her feel good and she's confident. So everywhere the storyline was that it's the Aspen tree that stands tall against all adversities, and that's how the woman is today. And every product compared to every dial, my dials and straps give stories. Because time, I'm sure all of you, and as we age, we look at it on the mobile because we don't look at it here. So I converted the watch to an accessory. And my byline is, I'm not selling time, I'm selling a feel-good accessory for you that matches your mood. So, there was a campaign that was Aspen for every mood, for when you're feeling happy, when you're feeling moody, when you want to go party. So, it's a kind of change. That's how we work on it. And the innovation, for example, last week itself, with the dollar rising, with the Indian government hating imports, I've been working very hard on vendor development to create watches within India. There aren't any products. Here the products are in brass, but I've been sitting with the factories asking if you can do brass, what is it what you need to do? Because I do only stainless steel 316 material, and that's what we are working on. And I'm saying, okay, I'll get you some parts and we merge. So I'm working with, so that innovation. And then we were looking at, there is the, what is that on the phone when you, GPRS or something, yeah, to see. So now we get watches with GPRS. I've been looking at an idea factory in Hong Kong, GPS.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm a technophobe, so I don't
It doesn't sound like that. Not for the last 4 minutes. I mean, it didn't.
Okay, so the GPS, and then there's the heart monitor.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let me add. I know those won't be selling products, but they're conversation products.
Yeah.
So this is something you have to keep doing. You have a team who's selling for you. You are there to empty your mind and mess up. And of course, that stage reaches as you go up to the highest stage.
But that's wonderful. You've actually given an example of every quadrant.
So it's not that you make a product and just forget about what it's doing. Will you keep on innovating and keep on changing?
So there are two things. One is the pace of change, but that comes at a price. And you need to be a little ahead of the industry to be able to keep up. Otherwise, you get left behind. But more than the pace of change, the innovation comes from, so I'll give you an idea, go back to the water example. If you have a water filter, you can move that on and say, okay, there are new opportunities that you can look at, or you can say that when you actually travel into Surat, etc., how do the common people drink water? Because common public water is not available, they buy a pouch for 2 rupees. It's in a plastic packet. How can you sell purified water at $1 or $2? It's an innovation. Now that may result in a water bottle, or it may result in an ATM card which you can swap and fill a glass of water from. It may result in a service where you pay more for the service than for the actual cost of the water. That's all innovation. But the innovation must not only come from a patent or a new mechanical device. The innovation must come from the entire business, the opportunity that it exists, that need gap that exists. And I think that is where design has moved, that's where businesses have moved. And if we don't move there and we continue to look at it in two-dimensional work, then it will be hard for us to compete. Anybody wants to add anything else on that slide? That's it, one. Okay. Yeah? I have a few more just as conversation starters, not so much to explain what's happening. So, typically it's 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 quadrants that we can do. And you can take a step back, and now let's say you've already started on design. Now I have more than one product line, and I have what typically happens is you see an opportunity to come up with a new product, and you come up and you say, you know, something is if I sell this as at 15% of a discount, there'll be a huge market, so let me do that. You cut a few features, or you look at something else and you sell that in. And before you know it, you have this huge inventory now of different products, of different sizes. It becomes different to manage. Sometimes they have different vendors, different parts, bottle caps which are different, you know. And so it's not always easy to plan at the beginning, but very often you need to get in and plan and then get out again. So the exercise of planning your product becomes important. The more your investment into your product or service is, the more important it becomes for you to plan that range so that your investments are better controlled. And that product planning happens both in terms of actually even creating beauty, adding your features, and in terms of innovation. So do you have a portfolio of products which makes sense at the end of it? And that again has more to do with marketing here and business than with design. But design has to understand that. So if you're going to be saying that I'm going to be selling jewelry, and I have, now I have within my silver range, I have something for younger people and something for middle-aged people and something which is like a pick-me-up and something which is like an engagement bit. Can I actually make lines out of them? Can I actually give it a name? Can I call it Arcia Moment or Arcia Momento or something like that? And have 4 or 5 lines which came up. So that is to do with branding, but design then will start from there. So design can come and say that we have now studied the customer through the research, and we understand that there are a lot of people buying stuff when they're starting to work. New daughters-in-law who are married, daughters who've got new jobs, suddenly they're using good jewelry which is a little expensive. Okay, do I have a work line? That has to look very, very different. Tanishq has launched. But we've done a recent research in Chennai where we found that a lot of people, we were doing another research, but what we found is a lot of people are actually spending, in Chennai people only buy gold sovereigns and put them in the bank. Yeah. Okay, unlike the north. But we found that a lot of women are working in Chennai, right? Because Chennai, typically Tamil Nadu has a very high population of working women as compared to the rest of the country. And so they tend to buy good-looking, no-nonsense jewelry, and that needs a separate line. So when you do research and you find that out, can design create that line for you? And then to plan your range with respect to branding, with respect to vendor development and all of that. I'm going back to the first slide on the process. You're thinking design, but you have to think before and after through the process. And finally, I think Manisha's done a lot of justice to the innovation, but the fact that there's usually a new opportunity outside of the way you're imagining the product. And that's a design agency is useful at that point, or anybody else who has that kind of talent, because you need creative plus business to be able to think that way. Taking somebody in the business who has been doing the sales for that business all along will tend to think very short term and tend to think very within the system. But if you have to do that, you have to think outside of the system. And you cannot also be very creative and say, you know, why don't we do something for kids? When you have no reach for children, you have no understanding for children, where children market is very, very developed and you have no strength there. So you need a bit of both the design and the business here. I have 4 examples to give you an idea. This is some work we had done for Godrej when about 10 years ago when we started working with the company. We do all their appliances now. This range was Eon. This was the launch of Eon. They came to us and they said we want a good looking refrigerator. And we did a little bit of research and we said, you know, at that time they were getting very badly hit by Samsung and LG. They still are, but they've recovered a lot. They, in some of the markets, they're actually market leader now. And we said, you know, it's not good enough to make a good looking door, because that's all that you will do, or you know, pretty looking shelves, because that's not a deciding factor for refrigerators as a category. Refrigerators are always sold on functionality, and until now Godrej sold on functionality. To leave functionality and move completely to aesthetics is incorrect with the category and completely contrary to the brand, because Godrej stands for no nonsense, dependable company. And so the premise that we set up was the design brief should be to deliver aesthetics at a functionality. And if you look at the refrigerators, at that time we had a covering slide for them which called Better But Boring. You walked into Sony Moni and they all looked the same. All the fridge doors were flat, maybe little curved, a little this and one, you know, that's it. So we said break the fridge door. And curve it in a way that says here is the storage. So this door actually curves outside. Those times Pepsi and Coke were going mad with the 2-liter bottles and they wouldn't fit in any fridge. And so we said, you know, curve them out. So this is the bottle space, and from the outside you can see the functionality. It breaks the clutter, looks different, and it looks beautiful. This one was curved on the main refrigerator out like a bulge, and inside from the freezer, saying that there's less freezer space and there's more space. So there was innovation. This one actually won 4 patents. Is still using some of that technology that we have developed for them. It won a design award for the aesthetics, and as a premise, as a whole opportunity, it's still very valid as much as it was before. This is the wording which says blame us for the traffic jam, look how pretty I am, but it says stylish outside, smart inside. So a little bit of all 4 quadrants went into this, but it was essentially they came to us saying give us good looks.
Can I interrupt? So besides just the design, you also do the creative, the advertisement?
No, not in this case we don't. And very honestly, it doesn't make sense for us to do the ads, but if you want Chotu Cool, the non-electric refrigerator for rural India, it's using a new technology. It's an electronic refrigerator because there's no electricity in rural India, so it works on a chip. So we're running a lab for Godrej where we're kind of prototyped one of these, the 2.0 version of this, and there we are helping them with the communication platform for this, because it's a low budget pilot program, get in and get out, but once they go mass and national, I think they should be with a larger agency. So that's one. Yeah, we worked with Toshiba. They came to India and they said, so everyone knows the electronics industry is, it's everything on one device. Really, your phone is your watch, your computer is your gaming device is your email device. And so we worked with them. They came to us and they said, give us India concepts for one of our product lines. I'm not able to tell you too much here, so I'll just give you the idea. And we said maybe what you need to look at is entertainment, because that's where you are. So understand where entertainment is. In some of the cases, maybe where food is, and what is making people buy, or what makes food interesting for people. That may be a starting point, just like entertainment was a starting point for us here. We've done a recent study. Actually, I'll send the book across. If you guys, if you like it, you can. I think circulate it. If you like it, we can order a few more. we've done a study called Kitchen Next, because a lot of our clients are from the FMCG and the appliances space, to see what are the new drivers in Indian kitchens and how people are changing, how their habits and their lives are changing in our kitchens. So rather than saying let's look at a new packaging for a food product, we say let's go sit in the consumer home, let's put a video on and let's watch how are they cooking and what are they using, and see where the opportunity lies for a new food product or for a new food packaging, or where that food can be used and how it can be used, and then fit that into what you're trying to do. Okay? Yes, sometimes the category is not very important. Like Manisha mentioned, watches have really no space in your life today. I wear a watch literally as an accessory. I'm like, okay, my wrist is feeling empty. Should I put in a bangle or should I put in a watch? Yeah, but I still won't look here. I'm having the phone. So how do you make a category more important than it is? How do you make jam more exciting when people are spending so much on noodles? So you don't just look at how do I make my product stand out. You say, how can I own that category? How can people start looking at noodles because of me and not because of anything else? And I can do that through design, because design can be sexy, design can be flamboyant, design can be alluring, and that's what you need to expect from your packaging and your product designers. Yeah. And finally, yes, that's Chodu. That's the 1.0 version. We're working on a really snazzy one. It's like what Fast Track has done to bags. We've done something to refrigerators, and still hoping it's going to be out. We're on the vendor development phase now. But when it's out, I'm going to send an email to everyone on this. Yeah, so that's it. This is the business model opportunity. I told you we work with Eureka Forbes. They were working for, so typically how would you look at it? When you're looking at anything new, any new design has to do with new. So whenever you're trying to change something, you need to basically ask yourself if your consumer or your market is changing in any which way, and whether the opportunity lies in the same market or outside. So here they came to us and they said design a new electric water purifier, which we did, and we said, you know what, there's the non-consumption. The guys who don't spend $10,000 or $7,000 on putting something up on the wall, what do those people do? And working on product range for them and making Eureka Forbes strong in that area was something that we worked with. And in terms of product planning, here's just a gist, again, a lot more detail can't be given, but we're looking at, here investments are very high. You get into a refrigerator store and you get something from a direct cool which doesn't defrost ice, right up to this huge 2-door flamboyant thing. It makes it very difficult to decide which one to buy. I bought a fridge myself recently after designing fridges for 10 years. And it was very, very difficult. Because you come in with a clear budget and then you say, okay, 5,000, 10,000. And why 5,000, 2,000? So price is not anymore, it's still important. It's very important. And the more you move down to different consuming segments, the more important it becomes, even for us. I mean, with onions at about $100 a kilo, everything is important. But the fact that you can stretch a bit for something that's going to be more meaningful to you, or something that's going to last or live with you a longer time, means you can usually pay out a little more. So it's important to look at other things when you do that. So here's a bit, I hope I've tried to cover it, but I'd love to take questions.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Like for our business, as you said, design, every half an hour we need to change this.
Yeah.
Every half an hour you need to come up with something different, new designs. Every moment, as you said, that for a girl, like office goer or somebody from, like we have different lines, you know.
Right.
So every line we need to think, because immediately next day the design is complete.
See, that's a big problem.
The design is
That's a big problem.
So we cannot, then the pricing also changes.
Right.
We cannot say, okay, we have this extraordinary
Correct.
design to sell, and
Right.
the pricing, like we sell at 2,500, somewhere we can see the same thing in 600 also.
Yeah.
Then what would be?
I think, yeah, that's true. I think India and China are two places. That's where the market is, and that's where there's no IP protection or no no design protection at all. So while we have a lot of patents and design registrations, I think the first thing we do when we work, we had our own products as well. Trust me, this was a big problem we faced. Was that what is your product life cycle? And that's something I think we need to define before you start working on it. It will actually be not sustainable to do things in half an hour or a day or 2 days, because you will not make the money. The amount of effort that is required to keep it going is actually not sustainable. But if you put yourself out and say, I have a life cycle, it comes from product planning phase of 6 months, okay, for this line. I know that, okay, maybe this one design will be copied by someone in Santa Cruz, but that's okay. If there was a chance that my guy is going to go to Santa Cruz and see the same one. But the fact that my biggest competitor will come up with the same kind of range that I have, or make it look the same, what's the barrier to the entry? So for example, for anyone to open a work jewelry line is easy. There's no barrier. I mean, if someone like us can think about it in 2 minutes, people who are in the business are definitely thinking about it, right? So what's the barrier that I can put up? Is there a process that I have or my sourcing that will give it to me at a better price than anyone else? Only that range. Or am I going to use my strategy such that this range I'm going to sell at a great price but make up my money on something else only for 6 months? So my business plan is such that 6 months में loss नहीं होना चाहिए. But I'll make my top line on that. But my bottom line I'll make on something else. But in 6 months I will stop. Yeah, I'll give you an idea. Samsung was talking to the company the other day. In Pongal was selling their refrigerators, very, very strong. And suddenly their refrigerators were not available. And the reason they did it is they said, I'm not making much money on my ref because the input costs have gone up high because the import of that particular product was very high in that time. So they said, I want to get a certain sales value on this, after which I will not sell it because I will lose money. So I will do it to maintain my share in the market so that I don't become a very small player compared to my competitors. But I need to now start selling, air conditioners or or washing machines, because so I start giving huge margins there and pushing that. You can actually play the market a bit, right? So can you use that business thinking and that strategy on your product line and work with design to create that, so that designers are actually responsive to what the business wants. It has to happen fast, so designers need to know a bit of business. You need to understand what you're saying rather than saying, I want to make a flower that goes like this. You just say, make it for 6 months at this size only. I think so, yeah. But it's very true. So you have to think a lot on product planning. A lot on product. And the barriers are difficult to put up. And they're not even sustainable because things change so fast. So you don't actually have an advantage for very long. So we made a bucket, which won a big award, and it was huge. In India, all of us have water shortage at some point or the other, and most people who live on the outskirts of Thane and many other cities, Chennai all the time, have it all the time. And buckets are great to stack when they're empty. When they're full, when you need them, they're all over the place. So we designed a bucket that was square. So you could have one sit on the other like this, rather than a circle, because then you have to keep that. So we did the engineering, and we checked the strength, and we did, so the kind of tests we did there were a lot to do with the strength of the bucket. It was taking 48 liters of weight. The lowest bucket had to take 48 liters of weight, 16 plus 16. Because of the design, it was easy. Yes, I must send you a link of this. It was ergonomic, what we call ergonomic, basically it was easy for the human body to pick up. Yeah, it's there on my website. I'm very proud of it. But here's the thing, we sold it for 2 years. We did a deal with Reliance and we sold it to 23 cities. And today people ask for it again, but we had to stop production because the supply chain costs were too high. We were selling it only through malls because in the open market it's all sold in black and we can't work that way at all. and the malls want home, on store delivery for 10 buckets, which you can't afford. So we actually had to shut the business down because of supply chain. The design was great. People still ask us for it. And I'm thinking of actually doing an online model now.
Makes sense. I think
that's
but see, dispatches would be a problem. It will break.
Dispatches maybe, then you only do it in 2 cities.
And it's volumetric.
But more than that is a production because it's an injection molded device. So once you have to run a mold, you have to make at least 10-20,000 pieces. And where am I going to store it? In Bombay, the inventory cost will be higher than the supply chain cost. So business therefore becomes very important.
But as someone that has copied it, that
we were so worried about that, Manisha. That was the reason I was giving you this example. Because you know how the plastic industry is. It takes like a minute for them to copy it. And in fact, that's the reason we never sold it to, not that I know Prince, but all these big kind of companies, because we said there's no point in saying pay me royalties and not get any money. They did not.
They did not copy.
They did not copy it. We had a patent pending registration and we made a lot of noise. But it did work. I'll tell you what may have worked. Because we thought a lot about this before we did the launch. That's part of our business plan. We put it in for a design award. And it won the Red Dot. The Red Dot that's the one that won the first time we won the Red Dot. The Red Dot is Europe's biggest design award. And Europe is like the god of design, more than even America is. And we were the first company in India to win the Red Dot with that. So we made these big tags. You know what the price tags are? We made these huge tags and we put the Red Dot all over it, everywhere. And the price was like part of that tag. So it had to be there. No retailer could pull out the tag. So the design became synonymous with the Red Dot. And in a way you could own it because we didn't have a brand as such. So we actually thought about it. I remember we paid $1 lakh to enter. This was a long time ago and we were like, why do this? We said, let's do it, and it worked. I think that was a barrier. I think it really was a barrier because it's difficult then to say here is something, but this is not the one that won the award. This is another one. Obviously a copy.
Right.
But if somebody would have copied and people in general, consumers would have realized that it's something that really we can start it up, they would have actually gone for that.
For the copy?
For the copied one.
Yeah. Maybe, but they didn't get it. I think the point is that the barrier existed. I'll tell you, I'm sure it was the award because we got approached by a couple of suppliers saying that can you do a private label on this, and I was like really amazed that they would do that because we didn't really we called it New Design, but I mean it was a very smart brand. We put it out long before it even got registered in people's minds. I think sometimes we feel very threatened by what can go wrong. Oh, a lot went wrong. It went wrong in a different place. So things will go wrong, sure. But things like pricing, copying, that we feel more scared about. Consumers are not like that.
Yeah.
Consumers want something authentic. They don't want to look cheap. They don't want to look like they've bought the cheaper brand. They don't want to look like that's the real one, but I bought a fake one. They'll buy the fake one if they think it looks real. But if it becomes obvious that it's not real, if it doesn't have the tag, it looks obvious it's not real, right? So they're going to say, oh, you got a cheap person, you're a sensible person, but you're cheap. Right? I don't think anyone wants to be called that.
I just want to say that initially,
no, it's just a chat.
Initially when we started, we were very worried about all these things.
Yeah.
Then when we launched the store, we realized people who are coming, like our clients, who know what we are,
right?
They come. They don't think about pricing. They don't think about okay, I'm getting this cheap here.
Correct.
But they know that trust is there.
Correct.
That bonding is there. They realize that. And they just come to a store and they pick up.
Yeah.
So that's how we got a little less.
I think Manisha mentioned emotional. Yeah, I think that's very important. Brand is another overused word. Just like quality and design. I mean, brand is. It's like this magic word. I want to do marketing. I want to make a brand. It's not so simple, right? But building it through an emotional way. Like everybody has this favorite store where they go and buy their clothes. everybody doesn't buy these big global brands like Nike and whatever else, right? We all have our own hole-in-the-wall shop because we feel emotionally attached to it. There's a few things that you feel close to. I was just moving home 2 days ago, so actually I still have cartons unpacked in the house. But when I moved in, it was completely blank and bare, and then you start unpacking your things, and the place tends to look like it's yours. And there's nothing to it. The place is the damn same thing. I mean, that light is a lamp, right? It's just your emotion that connects the lamp to you and makes you like it. So whether you call it marketing or branding or whatever, the design of that lamp has to be sold in a way that it connects to you. And design should actually help build that brand or that emotional connect to you that makes you want it. That also,
I think at this point what I want to ask you is that for most in this room would be either startup or early stage entrepreneurs, barring a few. While we've gone through the whole process of how do you really look at design and how do you imbibe it, few ways of, because what will happen is not everyone's going to have that kind of either luxury of monies or time to burn out something, create a style or a design, especially in certain areas where you need more time. You need to really, have 10,000, 20,000 kind of products. Even in your case, when you're going for childproofing, you won't be able to have a small batch. So, what areas can you really because you're also into research and surveys. Correct. Can you throw some light on that? Because I think before you get into a launch of a product, the pre of the research that you really do.
So again, I think the question really is the risk, right? So let's come back to cutting risk. The more the investment, the more you will do. But when you have a small budget and you don't have much to lose, it makes no sense to put that money in risk assessment, right? So yes, when you're launching a diabetes insulin pen, you have healthcare issues. You could do a lot of damage to J&J's brand if you don't get it right. If there is one incident of that pen administering an incorrect amount, you could be dead. So here the risk is huge. Here the amount of work that you need to do in terms of research, in terms of product development and testing is phenomenal. In childcare, you may be tottering a bit. In India, there isn't too much regulation, but still a bad name can give you a big problem. So here, maybe, the risk doesn't come so much from consumer research, but it comes a lot from your prototyping. So rather than saying, I have an idea or a design on paper and now I'm going to make a whole batch, can you make a few samples? And there are many production techniques. We won't talk about it now. If you have questions, you can talk to me about it. Those days are gone when if you made a plastic product, you had to do injection molding and make the mold, spend 5 lakhs, spend 3 lakhs and mold. It's not necessary. You can.
Yeah, actually my product is also ready. I'm now waiting for the packaging thing.
Right.
So how it should be appealing when people have no idea that something like this actually exists.
So if you so prototyping may be one way to do it. We come back to research. Research can be done by anyone. Anyone can do research in any way. Getting it done the right way with the right capability is important. So there are many types of research that one needs to do. And you will do research through the process. So another myth is that we will do only research in the beginning. Once we have got the idea, we will do nothing till it's out. Yeah? A lot of companies come to us, big companies come to us and say we have already done what we call a usage and attitude study. We know exactly 3,000, 5,000 people in India, what they use, make a design out of that. We'll finish the production. At the time of test prototype, just before launch, we will test it in the field. That's a huge risk. So we actually do what I'm saying that a lot of entrepreneurs can do. We do something called quick and dirty as well. We say all the time we should be checking. So we start early, getting ideas. We get into consumer homes and we do what we call an ethnography. We live with the customer. So when you're doing baby products, you will actually go into homes where there are babies and you will sit and have a cup of tea with them and spend 1 hour observing the baby, observing the home and understanding where the problems are. Maybe put your products and see what the issues are. And then come back and say, okay, now I have an idea. Then when you have that idea, you make a design. You can even then go back to maybe the same person, maybe 10 people. Statistically speaking, 30 people are enough for you to get an idea. As less as 30 people. You call your family and your friends, 30 people you've got. Right? If you can even hire a small research agency, they can help you to do this properly. Properly is important because you don't want to include what we call bias. If I ask you what baby products are, you will give me a different point of view. If I ask a mother what baby products are, she will give me a different point of view. So how should I remove that bias? And even sometimes the way you ask the questions can bias. So if it is my product, I might say, but don't you think this will be useful? You know, and Indians as people like to make you happy. We're very polite people. We don't like to be called bad people. The Western countries actually don't care that much about how they're perceived. But in India, the social implication is very important. So we always give an answer and say, do you like my answer? You know? So sometimes it helps to get even a freelance researcher involved so that you can be sure of your results. Get that idea back. Then make a sample, put it in and test it in how it works. Does it last? With the bucket, what we did, when the first run of buckets came out at the factory, you know, we told them the moment the first batch comes, you call us. We drove from Bombay to Vapi, and okay, there's a factory. There's a factory testing in Bombay. There's a special place where you pay $10,000 and they put it in a machine and test the strength and the stress and the rigidity. We just went there. We said, how will a bucket fall? It will fall from 2 feet, right? I cannot climb on something and drop it. I'll be standing. The topmost bucket will be this high. We filled it with water and we dropped it. And we did that for 10 or 15 of the buckets that came fresh out of the line. And they broke.
And
they broke. And then we went back and we said, what can we change in this? And we realized there was no problem with the mold, luckily. So the mold that we had was fine. We'd have to invest in it again. But we said we'd have to increase the plastic thickness at a certain point. So we actually told him to run another batch. And we dropped it and it did not break. So now, see, that's quick and dirty because it gives you a sense. It's practical in real life. You don't have to go into eventually
and easy.
Yeah. But see, in our case, before we launched the product, we actually went back to this testing institute and we did a proper testing and we got a full report. But there's a way to cut risk before that, right? I mean, if we had finished the production and then tested, it would have been more expensive, would have lost time. So research can happen very quickly. Research can happen through common sense. Research can happen by getting freelancers involved. But it's very important to test throughout. Yeah, that helps.
Makes sense. Any other pointers or questions to, firstly, the same topic? Anything that when you're talking about research before you launch?
I have a question to Manisha ma'am. Ma'am, when you initially launched your brand Aspen, like in the initial years I'm talking about, then you, like, of course you were associated with other brands earlier. But when you launched your own brand, then did some R&D or you just launched? Yeah, just
we did a focus group first.
Okay.
So again, exactly like Geetika said, let me give you an idea when she says you can hire someone. We were at a stage where we were at X crores of rupee of business, which was huge, and I had 318 employees. Overnight, we were supposed to go down to zero. So funds were very important to hold on to, and this was an idea that we had. So when we wanted to launch Aspen, I had a great consultant, Nagarajan, and I had a couple of other people who were with me earlier. We did 5 focus groups. So the first group that we did was my daughter's friends. The second focus group was both my daughters. So one was a batch of 18, one was a 15. The third was their parents. Again, it's a biased group, but they didn't know.
But it helps.
It helps.
It helps. A lot of times we ask people.
I went into my club. We got people there. We went into the malls and we got a lot of people from the mall. And the last group that we did was, my husband owns a jewelry business. His designers. So we got his designers and the designers got their friends. And when we wanted to do the business thought process and the nomenclature of the thing, we had all the past MBAs that had worked for myself, my husband and the other companies. So how many of our MBAs who had 10 years of experience at least, we had a focus group. So that was cost free because it was people who we knew. All we had was the lunch and snacks. Besides that, I'd like to ask Geetika that which are the groups that you can go to which are not too expensive. But you can go out to Google and say there are search agencies. But a lot of people don't want to do something that ideate on something that's not yet launched, not big.
Right.
Especially most of your
You have to be
video
careful.
must be accessories. When you're looking at Godrej and all, it's a lab.
Yeah.
They know that
That's true.
for someone like us or like a design or someone who's doing garments, it has to be somewhere where the money pot is a little lower.
Yeah.
There's,
Maybe, yeah.
There's one startup which is smartsample.com. What they do is they have customers who register themselves on their website, and these people have samples sent across to them, and those customers test the samples and give a feedback.
Okay.
So those are neutral. I mean, they are just general customers from anywhere across the country.
What is it called?
Smart sample.
Sample.com.
Yeah. So a lot of these Maggies and Nestle's and all these people, Unilevers, have done this new product testing and sampling.
But if you're looking for smaller groups of people, freelancers, let me just see if there's a list that I can put together and ask them.
I wanted to inquire about such freelancers because there was a stationery product that I created a sample product and I wanted some feedback. Again, the same thing, the whole bias came and friends saying, yeah, it's very nice. But you could actually see it's not the real feedback.
Yeah.
So we didn't know who to go to and we didn't really want to launch it
Right.
or just go online and start selling it. We were not sure. Again, that whole threat was there. What if somebody copies it? Because it's very simple. But we had a theme behind the product. But what we would have launched with the sample would have been very limited and easy to copy.
But
So
here's
that's
the
what
thing,
actually stopped
sometimes-
us from going ahead and the whole thing came to a halt and we didn't know how to actually go ahead.
Sometimes you can still go to people you know, but you just need to ask the question differently. Asking someone, do you like this, is a very difficult question. But so what you can do is you can introduce what we call a control. It's just a tip, something you know that may not work very well, and you have 3 of your designs, and you say, which ones are these? How would you compare these 3 with this? Now she's first going to say these 3 are better than the control, right? So she's already made you happy. Now you can tell her from these 3, which one would you prefer to buy? Then she may not mind. So a lot of times you need to cheat a bit on the way that you're doing this, so that you get the real feeling rather than. And it's not just people you'll get this. Even if you get a proper research agency, you will get bias. You get into a house and you say, when we did kitchen next, we said, how often do you wash your utensils? And they say, I hate dirty utensils. You never find a dirty utensil in my house. I wash them like this. I cannot stand the smell. And then we went in the kitchen with the camera, all full. And then she's like, I've just eaten. I said, I know, I can see you've just eaten. It's okay. But we like to portray a certain part. And it's not just portray. Sometimes we are like that. We are not conscious of what we do. A lot of times we think of ourselves in a particular way. It's not just to please people. And you say that my kid always listens to me. I'm a very, very powerful mother. And then sometimes you just take a step back and say, am I really? So sometimes your self-image is a little different from the way you actually behave. So my feeling would be sometimes it's better not to do. Focus groups are very helpful because they're very quick. The focus groups also introduce bias. You get 8 people into a group and 1 or 2 are always very strong. And people who think differently are most unlikely to oppose them. They get slapped with big hands in the focus group. So sometimes it's helpful to, as a technique, if you're doing it yourself, is do one-on-ones and do more observational question.
And also I think written kind of feedbacks will help.
Yeah,
what we did,
that's
we
also
started
helpful.
with, we
That's
started
also
with,
helpful.
you have to work with them, and your questions have to be negative.
Yeah.
Or rather, how I am coming to you for assistance. I know that I am not perfect, and I respect you for helping me make it better.
Yeah.
Trust me, the entire mood changes. So your questions are, this is what I've created. I'm not sure whether this is right or wrong. I love your feedback. So what you're going to say is very important to me.
So it's
To
not
make it
like
a better
fishing for
product.
compliments, it's basically going
Yeah.
off of the way you structure your questions.
So it's always, and one thing I'd really like to say, all of us, we are very proud of our creation. I'll say, every product is like your child, okay? You think your child is the best. I am saying, when it's going to be a product that you have to sell out in the market, that's not your child, so someone else is going to look at it differently. Please balance it out. Look at the pros, cons. Again, what she said, right? Look at the barrier. How many other people can create something like that? So at what price would you sell? Secondly, everyone's going to copy you. Don't worry. That's a compliment. The day you're copied, you are a wonderful product. Appreciate it and move on. Stop, burning yourself out over it. Third thing, don't get scared of e-com. E-com is something that gives you an idea fast, whether it's working or not working, and you make your money within 3 months. It'll give you an idea of what's like. You create another thing. Stop thinking half the time the product dies because you worry so much. If it's to be there, it'll be there. If it's not to be there, it won't.
That's right.
She asked a question very long ago.
Okay, before you get into the question, I wanted to add one more thing, Supriya, to what you were saying and what Geetika said in terms of the focus groups. We can even do something like a neutral focus groups, and I'll just give you a small example. I don't know how many of you heard of Lawrence and Mayo, the brand that is there, which deals with opticals. We also had something, and we were just talking, to Vivek, who's heading the entire marketing for Lawrence and Mayo. So they have even these subsidiary products, which are microscopes and things like that, where they wanted some kind of feedback, because this is used in the lab. So they have to get, professors who would be using it to say which will work, which will not. So they keep innovating and creating better and better, microscopes with more functions. And what they used to do is, book, banquet room in a 5-star hotel, offer free food, get these guys to come here and kind of put your microscope there, invite people, come, have a look and give us feedback. He did that a couple of times, it all went waste. So all the money, you would hardly have 1 or 2 people really walking in, but not even that much. So you just end up paying the hotel for nothing. So he came up with a lot of creative ideas. He went to the institutes where these guys actually operate out of. So, these guys are working, let's say 9 to 5 or whatever. So they would pick and choose a day which is convenient to them, ask them in advance what works for you. Do a session, let's say from 3 to 5, give them free food and tea, coffee, something on the house which is sponsored by them. Lay out all their apparatus there, ask them to go around and then have a conversation with them along with the feedback form, which is a combination of both. So people like to take that break from their, lecture, come down, okay, give a little bit of feedback, have some, food in return, just refreshment, networking. The other thing is that people amongst the same college didn't get enough time to network. This was their opportunity to network. And a few years down the line, a few months down the line, when the college was actually looking at investing in it, these were the guys they would actually get. But let's take it from these guys. So you need to, what I'm trying to say is go to where your, TG is. So if you're doing stationery, if you think kids are your TG, then probably, gather a group of kids or go to a...
Or maybe do a birthday gift.
Yeah, something like that.
And see whether they like it or not. Something like
Go
that.
to a school, go to, play areas, try to get kids together, whichever your TG is. Sorry, please, back to the question.
So, I really like the work that you showed. I can totally connect with it because this is what we do. So basically, we're trying to look at, bringing about new concepts of healthcare delivery systems,
right,
in diabetes care. So we're moving away from insulin pumps and strips and meters. So it's more about diabetes management in totality. So my question was, when you're trying to sell an innovative idea, how do you justify costs?
Yeah.
Because there is always a risk.
That's true.
And obviously the sales and marketing guys want to make their money back and break even as soon as possible. So how do you go about justifying the cost?
So I have a few questions. Is this an innovation cell that reports to the MD, or is design reporting to marketing? How does it work in your company?
So it's an innovation cell. It's an R&D. It's a part of the R&D.
So you have R&D, and within R&D you have innovation, or this is R&D?
This is R&D.
Okay.
So we have, so I basically do a lot of qualitative research, a lot of consumer research, plus product design based on the need gaps that we have. And there are engineers who they develop, and there are IT guys who basically keep us in check.
So R&D comes up with an idea and they need to sell it to marketing? So is marketing, sorry?
We need to convince, so we basically build a business model, business case out of for whatever idea we feel would work. And we
How involved is marketing in this process?
How involved? So basically we keep them in the loop throughout, but so there is a stage where there is a disconnect, and then the marketing team comes back.
So what we found helpful is so companies that actually do quadrant 3 and 4 a lot and not looking at devices but healthcare management systems, etc. Usually have a different structure and it starts at the top. But that's like in India we don't follow that system. Innovation and new products still rest with R&D, but the budgets actually rest with marketing because they're the ones who sell it. What the process, if you've seen the way that we follow that process, we usually set up a core team when we start working, and we always have one senior scientist from R&D, even if the project is commissioned by marketing. Because a lot of companies in India are marketing led and not R&D led. We insist on one senior scientist from R&D, and we insist on one representative from marketing from the team, from budget. We also take someone from manufacturing or vendor development. If you're not manufacturing, you're sourcing. In your case, maybe IP, your lawyer, or someone. That core team. If you see the whole process, there are the gray areas of risk assessment. We call this a gate. And at the beginning, when we draw up the entire process, and we can do this even for small businesses, we say, I will take a decision on a go, no go, based on price, feasibility, etc., here, and the people who will be involved in that decision are XYZ representatives. And I will take a decision on which one of these to work with at this stage, etc., through and through. In that process, if you're doing it through and through, the client in this case being marketing doesn't come in after the idea is developed. We also do workshops where for example, we're working currently on a retail concept. Now, retail design in India essentially is all about big showrooms, right? I have this wonderful showroom which will give you the experience. But 80% of the country is buying it in one hole in the wall kind of place where you can't even enter the shop. So where is the retail experience there? And where is your brand? It's not even on the shelf there. So how do you get to build something there? So in that case, we've done a workshop where we actually do a consumer journey with a few representatives from marketing, with a few representatives from packaging. We take that into the field, and then we come back and we do an ideation session. So they're part of the idea as it develops. And there's a sense of ownership. There's a sense of understanding the logic where you come from. And then they can share the opportunity. Otherwise, they kind of think that it's an idea that you believe in, and this is something that I have to sponsor, which is not true. I think it's great that you guys are looking at it as management systems and not as simple devices, because the world has moved way beyond that. We're setting up an office in Singapore next month, and we did a workshop on healthcare last month. It was sponsored by the Singapore government. I tell you, our government has so much to learn. But let's not go there. That's another section. The government is sponsoring an ideation session with us as designers and with different government agencies and native Singaporean people to understand how healthcare management can be done at home, which includes diabetes and blood pressure, essentially, interestingly, so that the healthcare bill is reduced by the government and there's better healthcare for people. Even our companies are not doing that. Right? So these are models that we need to bring into businesses, whether it's a large corporate like J&J or very interesting company like Aspen, or maybe another small startup that we want to begin. But we need to bring that kind of, it should not be my idea and my thing and then I will test it to the extent of acceptability. It needs to be inclusive, it needs to get a lot of people in together all the time through the process. So we've done a very neat chart with all the greens and all the oranges and the pinks, but they're actually very muddled. You move from green to orange, pink and come back, into orange and come back. But the decision on the greens is over. And then you do a lot of muck-up, but then the ID decision is over. So you need to get a lot of people involved before you reach the idea or the concept stage. If you've not gotten that, it's also possible that if you forget the buy-in, it's also possible there'll be problems with the concept if they're not all in together, because each one of these people actually brings something very valuable. That's a great way to start. So we can talk later. We've done a lot of work on healthcare. I can take you through some of it. I think I know Biten.
And he told me about you.
Oh really?
That's why I asked you to come.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I met you a very long time ago once. Yeah.
See, basically, when I initially said that I want to bridge myself, like as a CSR, now in government, when few days back I was working in sampling and all, they said you can have your own brand. Retailing, if you talk about retailing, there are a lot of overheads.
Right.
So, thinking about overheads, what I said that anywhere I am working with NGO and all those things, what I can do is I can be a representative of them and ask those women, I'll do the product development, you believe in my samples, I'll do the product development and let them work. Okay. See, I've seen a lot of people, they spend huge amounts on marketing, branding and other things, but when it comes to CSR or when it comes to give some work to NGOs and all those things, then they have the cost cutting.
Correct. But it's changing a bit. It's changing a bit. I think it's probably because of all the mess that the money is created to start with in the West. Yeah.
My question is, how should I design? See, I know people know me, okay, initially just a few days back I launched my own brand and I'm working on that. That is a different thing. What they try to suggest me is, okay, you do CSR for them. Let your brand do CSR for them and you sell your brand to us. Which I don't want to see. I don't want to manipulate finances. But
No, that's right. So essentially, I guess the best solution would be to take a step back of all of this. When I first studied business, we were in Bajaj a very, very long time ago. I'm showing my age now. But our opening, we went bright-eyed, create business school, we're the best in the world, we're going to do some great work and all that, first class. And we sit down and our professor comes in and says, why does a business exist? And we all said it's to make life better for people, it's to make the world a better place. And he said, no, a business exists to make money. You exist because you live in a society, different structures exist for different people. A business exists to make money. And it's true. It's upsetting because a lot of times in the quest for money, there are many important things that are misjudged. And that is changing, to come back to what we were saying earlier. But the fact that you need to show the money is important. It doesn't mean that you get walked over. And most of the time, people like us do get walked over because we're in the power play situation right there. But there's always something valuable that we have. Most of the time, it's seen more valuable to them than we expect. We tend to think that we're not that valuable to them. We are very, very valuable to them. And if we can recognize what that value is that we bring to them, in your case, the fact that you have a cheap way to do this because you're doing it through CSR, it's a cost-effective way to do it. Then you're not paying them that much money and you don't have overheads. is a great business model for them. The fact that they're pushing the boundaries, you can't let them get away with that. But you need to be able to show them how it's useful for them. Either, okay, you're making so much of a margin as compared to so much of a margin. So you still have reduced, you still have expenses, but your margins are reduced versus it will do something for your brand because you're being beneficial. Sometimes you also have CSR benefits from the government. No?
We do have, another names of schemes and subsidies. As a women entrepreneur, I'm a license holder definitely, but it takes huge time.
Yeah, I know. And like I said, we won't get into that because that's a big crib session. I know that completely. We've done so many programs with TIE where we talk about the banks come and tell us all of this, and then we go and talk to the bank and they want all the guarantees. So that's true.
No, it's not that only about the guarantees. There are a lot of schemes from the government that sponsor you huge amounts, but there are a lot of paperwork involved and a lot of time
But would
involved.
it help to get someone involved?
No, so I was just going to suggest actually that, I think you're fairly new in what you're doing. You said you've recently kind of launched your brand, and you've also been associated with an NGO. I somehow found when you were talking, the thoughts are still a little amalgamated to some sense, So because you've been with the NGO for a while and you've been helping with them design and probably even marketing, I'm not really sure. But now you're creating your own branding, you're creating your own line of garments. So I think there'll be a lot of work that you personally will have to do on the business modeling and business planning before you start even approaching customers and coming to a price point. Because you will be confident to kind of deal with them and negotiate with them once you have a little bit of that in place. So it's a little new territory right now. So it's not only just the mindset, because going from your previous background, when you approach a client, they'll say, okay, you got talent which is a little bit available at lower cost, so let us get that reward of getting the product from you at a lower price.
No, it is not that. Actually, the scene is exactly different. What happens when I talk about CSR or other NGOs and whatever, they are not confident about the quality they'll get. And what I would expect is how to design that product in a way which would be successful.
Right. So, coming to, we're also going to ask, Shyamla to come in and give her experience on this in 2 minutes. But there are two things whenever you're talking about NGO. One is the cost and the other is the quality. And quality in terms of uniformity or sustainability, because you may get one particular product of a particular quality, but maybe a few months down the line, you may not get the same product. The quality will not be maintained because probably the set of women are changing, or you're not. But if you give the confidence to the company you're delivering that you are training those women and you will be delivering uniformity in terms of the line that you're creating, then it definitely works. So what you want to give some experience, because she works very closely with women in that same category.
It's very important to look at it from a point of view that here I have a product and you're trying to sell it to a commercial organization, but you yourself at the NGO level or at the artisan level, you need to ensure that the skills that you have provided is at the professional level itself, and that is very important, because if you're selling in a commercial space, you have to be at the same level. If you are looking at, yes, I'm here from NGO level and whether I can sustain that's not the way to look at it. Look at it from a business point of view that, yes, I have to have a perfect product, I have to have trained staff to be able to do that, and that's when we'll be able to maintain the quality and be able to sell it to and keep that same standard up to for the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever the shelf life of the product is. So unless you have that if you look at it from that angle, things will just fall in, and it's a lot of hard work, but you need to do that.
Especially early days, so it will take time, because you're just launching your new brand. So it will take time for the customers, and whether NGO or not, for every entrepreneur, there is a life cycle,
My personal brand is not an NGO.
Correct. But you said you're sourcing from them, right?
No, I'm not sourcing from them. I have my own unit, and I'm paying to my karagars and I'm developing. I have my website and I have fashion forecasting working for me, and then we have this e-commerce platform. That is a different identity all the thing. This is different because when I was working for sampling for a very long time through a networking meeting, I got introduced to the MD of Marvel. Then she approached this, okay, garment has so much potential.
So what you were talking about right now, just to kind of understand, because like I said initially that it's a little amalgamated, I was a little not sure where you're talking about. So you're challenge, you're talking about your brand or you're talking about the NGO?
I'm talking about the NGO. My brand, it is in our initial stage, so designing and process and planning.
So coming to NGOs, one of the sales pitch which may work or you could try it out, the government has kind of said that, you need to have a 2% CSR which goes towards
that's what I was talking
so
about.
you could kind of use that as one of your pitches. Of course, it's not the only pitch, but you would have to give the confidence to your customer, saying that you are training these women and there will be uniformity and quality, because that's what's really good.
And if it's not this export house, it may be some other. The fact remains that there is a bent towards this, and there is a benefit to businesses towards this. Somebody sees it sometimes they don't.
And for products like the NGOs that you're talking about, are they doing just garments or what?
No, actually,
they do artifacts?
Anything and everything.
It is actually a government, so it's established by the government for development of women.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so they do a lot of skill building, plus they form these help groups, they do the funding, so there's a whole lot of activity that goes on. So it's a very large, very large.
In fact, it's a organization which exists in every state in the world. So they have
you can't work in a municipal corporation. When it goes to Gram Panchayat, it is basically into rural development, women empowerment in rural development.
So every state will have one of this organization where the women of the rural areas would be involved, and then they have different programs within that. So self-help group is one where they're talking about the financial management, plus they're also developing different kinds of businesses within that just to help women sustain their own this thing. So from garments, textiles to candle making to your incense making, matching, all your cotton industry and everything. So it's everything together.
Besides government, I think Central Bank of India has created a department very recently, just a few months ago, where they're getting into funding, women, let's say MSMEs. So actually not even MSMEs, but micro women entrepreneurs. So they will get into training as well as funding, and then to some extent marketing. Not so much of marketing, but that could be there.
In touch with bankers, like it may be Central, it may be SBI, it may be Saraswati, even if it's not a nationalized bank. There are a lot of bankers, there are a lot of schemes, but when it actually comes to CSR, NGO and all these things, they really don't. If tomorrow I go and say that I want to launch SAR, I have a manufacturing unit and they have, actually my credit limit goes to 1 crore, but when it comes to CSR, they really don't have. They come as a marketing gimmick that we support this, we support that, and then for simple example, for this
what is your challenge in the NGO marketing, or is it funding currently?
Funding is not a problem because government has huge amounts to spend.
So you're having an issue with the marketability of your product. The other thing I think what may be useful, and if anybody else, I think we as a group should give some inputs. Could be a little bit of feedback which you can take from the customers that you're pitching to, plus maybe focus groups like we discussed. I think there are even exhibitions that NGOs hold, and they're at very subsidiary rate. You can have your products sold there. But while you're doing that, also take a little bit of feedback. For example, I'll just give you this is something which I picked up from an NGO in an exhibition. It's a very pretty product, and it's eco-friendly, and I found it is a little out of the box. It's not like the normal visiting card holder that I typically would carry, which is a leather thing. So I immediately liked it. It's okay, Indus Valley, terracotta, things like that. So I said, okay, let's take this. But I used it for a while, and the second time I somehow met that lady again in another exhibition. I said, a little feedback to you that this is a very pretty thing, but my problem is my cards keep falling out when it's in my purse. There's nothing that so I don't like to put a rubber band on this and look ugly. But if you have a little magnetic spot which just stuck like this, then she was very happy. She's saying, okay, probably the next time I start making these, I'll put a small magnet strip. And she immediately gave me 3 ideas how this can stick. and she said, okay, this is a very nice thing. But what I'm saying is that maybe I went and I told her, there are a lot of customers who will come and tell you, but not all of them would. So if while you're selling at exhibitions or you're approaching customers, try to ask for feedback. Okay, how else can I change this? Which will appeal to you. Anybody else having any ideas, feel free.
Do we have any other questions?
I think then Priya, you want to introduce yourself. You were the last person to walk in. So she's our lady who thought it was on Saturday, so she's really that's
And the Google calendar popped up just in 20 minutes.
She told me like literally at 3. So
Even I was calling you. I was like, I haven't heard from you. Is it ready on tomorrow?
Okay, my product is a health shake mix. It's a normal product. It's made totally natural, made from sprouts of grains, pulses, and with added whey protein. It's unique in its form. There are a lot of nutrition supplements in the market, but nothing which gives nutrition from the natural raw material, the ingredients that go into it, without any preservatives, artificial flavors. So this concept comes very much from the traditional. Our grandmother used to make those porridges, and every household has some local, like south ragi is famous, or even down south rice is famous. North it's sattu. But I used to make these things for my kids, and then I realized, why not have a mix of all the things that are healthy and nutritious, not just what is locally available, because now that barrier doesn't exist anymore. So a lot of research and trials and testing in laboratories and all that, I came up with this formula, then sprouting, put some science to it, bioavailability of nutrition, and what is actually required by growing children in different age groups, and then working backwards to where I could, from what grains I could get this kind of nutrition. So 15 years I've been making this product as my kids grew up on it, and I also survived on this product. Finally somewhere, while I was working, I was always in the corporate world, MBA, 91, 93 if you really. So 15 years through the corporate thing, I was moving, but back of the mind I always wanted to be on my own, and I was looking constantly for some unique ideas. I tried, failed, experimented. All those things happened in those 15 years. Finally, this idea and my intention just crossed paths, and I quit my job and I got full time into this 2008. What I did was I started first with some prototype, some branding, packaging. I put it up on the shelves and stood there, did sampling, Godrej, Nature's Basket, Hypercity, talked to the customers, got a lot of first-hand feel of what they feel about the product. A lot of their feedback, I went back to the drawing board, incorporated all the features that I could. And while doing this research, first-hand research, I always had one eye on the cash counter. Here they're saying a lot of positive things, yeah, great, good. Are they actually buying it there? That was my test.
True.
That was very test, yeah. So by being in the market, on the field, and having a first-hand feel, I got a lot of insights into my own product. Initially, I had a very basic thing which was like a porridge. You cook it, it's just 2 minutes of cooking on the gas. But even that the customer doesn't want to do nowadays. So then got it, got a food technologist to work on it, and we worked through the entire process of making it digital. Everything is in the factory without hand touch. And I had to put up a factory for that, because then it was not possible to be outsourced manufacturing. So 2 years
That's
down
a new food act now, right?
Yeah, FSSAI is a new food law. But that is another part. This, because of the techniques that I had to use to instantize it, it was not possible to do an outsource. So then I put up a factory last year. I spent one whole year getting all the bank loan and all the licenses, government licenses, without paying under the table. It takes a lot of time, but
Okay, so she's a valuable research. She's doing a session. She's doing the
You
session.
said without under the table. I think she was
Seriously?
How did you manage that?
Yeah,
It takes time. It takes time, persistence. See, if you have money, if you have investors and they want it fast, results fast, you pay the money, get it done. But if you don't have money, obviously like a startup, but then you have to just keep going and knocking at the door. One day they'll say, "Don't टाक रहे आप भाई अभी नहीं पैसे देना तो करता हूँ नहीं." So yeah. And then you cry. You cry. I'm a startup. I've just started. There's a lot of laws. ये वो then दुखियारी, बेचारी, whatever works, just get it done.
Learn to be the carry.
So yeah, then a lot of features like customers wanted instant one thing, then they wanted something that could be tasty in water because no adults are used to drinking it in milk. So that was another big challenge to make my product tasty in water. So again the formulation and all. Third one was a feature like okay, if this is an instant product, then it should be convenient. Then those bottles or Horlicks kind of jars will not work. So then I came up with single serve sachets, which you could just carry in your purse and mix it in water and have it whenever you're hungry. Then as for the nutrition requirements, I had a variant where once I put up my factory, I had a lot of flexibility. So I divided into like 2 to 12-year-old kids, 13 years and above for the adults, and then a diabetic variant.
What about taste? Did you do any taste testing?
Yeah, all this came up with the initial, people would make faces and kids were my best friends because if they don't like it, they don't lie actually. Yeah, it's clear on the face.
Kids were the guinea pigs also.
I did it at Billabong school. So, I mean, that's what motivated me to go ahead and invest in a factory because I knew that the customers are liking it, kids are liking it. So then this should work. So that's how I took the plunge.
What's the brand?
STROMS. It's an acronym for Strong Minds and Bodies. So the spelling is STROMBSS. All the Godrej, Nature's Basket stores, Pan India, all e-commerce stores, not Reliance.
You see it? Yeah. You should approach the government with the food bill, nutrition for the kids.
I think she's done with it now.
No, I think they're very good.
Yeah.
On a national level, you will be getting a lot of customers.
But honestly, I think it's fantastic. One of the drivers we found in our kitchen next study was health. And it's like people don't really want to take the trouble for health, but health is important. And taste is equally important. So, you know, we did a research where we got into their homes early in the morning and the treadmill was there, but it had all the cartons and there were parathas in the kitchen. So sometimes you see stuff and it just tells you some other. But health was number 10 on the list. So if you can get it easily without compromising a lot, that's a wonderful idea.
Yes, it will take time to percolate down, so that's how I started with, that helps with the brand also. I kept it exclusive, premium, only available in
Becomes more aspirational.
Yeah, and then it will come down.
Good stuff.
So that's nice. Do we have any more questions or what we can do? We have some tea, coffee and some snacks.
We can do that.
We can network and share.
You have my ID, my email ID. I'm very difficult to reach on the phone.
Tell me about it.
I was hoping she wouldn't say that. But I am. Not because I'm rude, but because I'm usually in a lot of work. But I clear my emails every 24 hours. I don't have any emails left. So if you send me an email, be sure that you get something back immediately. If nothing else, I'll buy a little time from you. Okay? But please feel free to write in.
So on this note, thank you so much.
Everyone, it was a wonderful discussion. It would be great when we're having this, if everyone can stay back just 5-10 minutes. You know, design, I'm so happy that so many people came up in design because we're trying to really give something back in terms of design. And me and Z have been thinking a lot about, opening a special interest group. I think it would be very helpful for us to understand what kind of programs we could use before we get the number that we need to open this group. So I'm finding, tell me if I'm right, or correct me actually. I'm finding that a lot of business is required in terms of design. A lot of the questions were not about which color works. But a lot of the questions...
If you see, we don't have too many designers here, barring a few, but it's largely entrepreneurs who would like to use design.
No, but even there, I mean, if I talk to Sharanya, right? And even to Supriya, who's in the area of design, clearly has designed businesses. But yeah, I thought that more of the questions would be on the process, but it's really about how to make it work in business, which I think is very. Is that good? Yeah, I think that's very helpful. It's very different from what we started off with. So it's not so much about scaling out or whatever. It's about how can something so creative actually interface with something so hard. And how can you make sense out of it? Yeah?
When I feel I do on the school that you're thinking, because we've been looking at it, we're talking to the entire watch federation right now.
Yeah.
We made a presentation. What happens within India? Watches, besides Titan, and of course there was the HMT, there are very few watches made in India. That's why we don't have the vendor, the supply chain. Everything's coming. So I was telling the team that what we need is, one, we need the trends, because Indian trends are different. So when you have a design school, it's very important for any designers. All over you have this, what are the trends coming in, how they will convert and things like that. Second is design, because very important is you create a design with the product development of that. I think you're superb at that. I'm quite impressed. That is the issue we have within India. And then the quality control and testing. We don't have enough people. So when we do the school, these are the 4 things that are very important besides just the design.
You know, I'm just thinking like trends, for example, there's a lot of work that can be shared. So let's see how we can try and do that.
And you also be according to which segment you're in, so like watches.
Not necessarily. I think overall trends in terms of so the way when we do design, for example, we there are these groups, color marketing group, USA, there is the Scandinavian Color Institute, there is the Asian group, and these are very large companies that do trend research the world over. And because we're a design company, we have our people on their boards as well. So we usually get a report for the year.
That would be very interesting, I think.
I don't know how we can leverage it.
I was just going to say this. I know.
I don't know how we can leverage it because it costs a lot even to do a half-day workshop. And I'm just thinking aloud, if a lot of people are interested, it might be possible to pool in a larger group, and I can talk to some of our partners to reduce the cost also, and maybe lower. I'm just thinking aloud because that's an easy way to tap into what's selling.
I'm sorry, I must have missed the first part, so I'm clueless about the thing you're talking about. Is it course?
No, so we work with Future Factory. We'll catch up a little more about us.
I need 10-15 minutes of your time. I've come exclusively to meet you all the way from.
Sorry, I'll be here. But
It's very interesting because it's since we're all doing products, and that's very much needed.
Fashion and
because
color.
the trends, like, okay, need not limit itself to just the colors or the it can also be food, and what is, because in jewelry, so when she's doing jewelry, of course there's a color, but when food, there are trends that are coming. And there was a time where it was stuck to North Indian and Chinese. Now we suddenly have the Lebanese and the Mexicans. Like when everyone said jams, I can't remember the last time I was jam. But immediately now you see so many Indian people making salsa. I mean, fun foods has become such a big product. So, that. So it is.
I think she's right. So here's the thing, what we can do, and you can give us our feedback. I know because this is our work at Future Factory, I'll be happy to do a Kitchen Next review, the study that we've done. If we get enough interested people from the food industry, we can share our findings on Kitchen Next. That's one of the things we can do. But coming back to the earlier question, I think Manisha's onto something, because trends are not colored at concepts. So for example, you say classic, delicate, which means it could be filigree, or it could be thin silver work or something like that. That concept is enough for you to add colors, etc. Or you say comfort, home comfort, warm home comfort is a concept. So you're always going to be working with the browns and the wood as finishes, etc. So while we may not be able to do a full workshop because that's expensive, we can always share overall concepts.
Sure.
And that I'm just thinking what will be valuable as inputs other than
you
business part.
really want to come for something, because like we're saying, it's going to be expensive, but at the same time, let's take the whole
But some of
shuffle
this-
only if there is enough number of people.
But
who want
this
to
for example, kitchen trends, for example, we can do free because that's my work. I know we can share it.
I'll try and see if I can get you the trends, because you get the trends, and You know, at least I can give you last year's.
That I can do as well. That's not a bad idea.
That's what we can do. Because
That's not a bad idea, Manisha.
You know, because I used to get it from Skagen and all.
Yeah.
In India, I haven't yet procured it.
So we can do that together. I can share what I have
Yeah.
with you, which is, you know,
I don't have
shareable.
any. I'd have to call for it from.
We can see. I mean, these are just opportunities, it's not something we necessarily need to do, but we need to see if that's
Because India
valuable.
anyway is a little, at the moment as yet, we lag behind a little.
That's not bad.
And you have to, because see, when she said the home and the wood and the autumn, and when you're looking Scandinavian, it's very different. We have a very niche for the Scandinavian look in India. The Victorian works very fast for us when you're looking. So, you know, and then anyone who's in creating something, the best is just keep your eyes open with the Lakme India Fashion Week or the Jewelry India Fashion Week or whatever you get, because they are already paying into these people for the trends.
But jewelry and all that becomes very important. This kind of stuff, actually, even fashion. Okay, but this is again related to design.
This is
on
good
business.
starters. And you know, now moving away from the SIG, the Special Interest Group, Thai Sri Shakti at large. So business, you know, challenges. It could be legal, it could be team, it could be whatever. So anything that you all want us to do, either workshops or seminars or mentoring sessions.
I would like workshops, going back to trends, workshops on lifestyle trends in general. So these could be generic trends like convenience. People are looking
Drivers
for
of change.
drivers of change. So
Drivers
they can be applied
That's
to
what's
any
helpful.
industry,
Right.
be it jewelry or packaging. Or
Yeah, cool. We can share that. We can do that kind of work. So there's a lot of research which we can share at a top line level as well, which will help. Because research, I think research is coming back as a useful area. I think that's very helpful. That's something that we spend a lot of time.
Low cost research.
Low cost research, but valuable research.
To go with it, the practical side of it, how you implement it, use it, and
Which we've been through.
So I think the point is years on that.
I'm changing my price.
I think So that's another way. So how do you find a way to move fast with less resources and still do research? These are some of the things we do. Facebook is helpful, but it's very, see, you know, the depth doesn't exist. But we use Facebook. We use Facebook to say, it's like our street interviews. If you go on to IDI, you see we do street interviews. Street interviews, you can't do a log. You can ask 2 questions, 3 questions. But then you need to analyze them very well. You have to be very, very good at analyzing them to see how it makes sense. So in Facebook, you can ask questions like, do you think India has a future? Or what are the 2 things you hate about the country or where you are? Or what is your biggest hope and dream? And that will give you what, like she said, maybe a feeling of the opportunity or how people are, aspiring, or what is going to drive them as a concept. You have to be very good at analyzing that. Because you can't ask so many questions.
1 minute before I forget, tomorrow at 5 o'clock at Geetika College, there is a workshop from Google Business Group. Google Business Group. How to promote your business, like what is search engine optimization. Google.
Okay.
What is search engine optimization, how the YouTube channels work to promote your businesses, and all these things there, and even the Google products. What is analysis?
In fact, everybody should register, become a part of the WOW group.
In fact, we're doing that. So Priya, Google, and we are basically going to do a workshop for TSS members as well. So we are in talks with Google. So we are in talks where they have a whole program which is like a 4-layered program with 4 different modules. So they're going to especially do it for Thai Sri Shakti. So we are in talks with them. Wherein we will kind of customize it as per,
right from making your website to
So we'll do that.
Research, I would like to suggest, why don't you check out the mystery shopping groups?
I have a problem with the mystery shoppers.
You've tried them sometimes?
I haven't used them, I've
There
been
are
with
some
them.
good ones,
When they
who may do this sort of research, what you are looking at, and it can work out faster.
The danger with moving with easily accessible research is that the research results are not trusting, which means your impact of that research is sometimes worth small. Like she said, sometimes you may have to change your packaging thrice because the research is not reliable. So you have to be very careful, I think, about doing something is not very expensive and convenient, but yet reliable. And it's a bit of a fine line, but because you're trusting the rest, it's risk, right? What is at risk, and how much are you willing to risk it?
How does it compare to your smart sample?
I have not seen smart samples of
Smart sample, you have to provide free samples which you distribute among the registered members, and the members.
But I would actually say there are many methods. I mean, you can actually take 2 months to list the number of methods that there are. Trust me. Even if you take observation-led stuff, I have a chart which I usually put up on only ethnographic research because that's an observation-led thing for design. And my partner keeps telling me no one can read anything on that because it's so full of stuff, I think it's very important to first ask yourself, what is the risk that you're trying to protect? What is the answer you want? So we have a very useful document that we force ourselves to fill on research, and I think everyone should do that, no matter what they're doing. They should say, if this is the answer to the question, I will do this. We call it outcome. Now, it's very nice to do that before you do the research, because after you find the findings, you can change your mind. You lose courage or you get biased. But if you say, if they love this phone and they give it a 10 on 10 and they're willing to pay a great price, I will launch it. Or if they even give it an 8 out of 10 and they're not willing to buy this price, I will do more testing. Like she said, it's your baby. Sometimes when you reach the research results, you say, so what? So it forces you to put the outcome, then you can decide which sample.com or focus groups or mystery shoppers. For example, if you just want to get an idea whether your store is doing well, they're paying attention to your customers, mystery shoppers are great. It's fantastic. But if you want to test a concept, mystery shoppers may be biased. So what is the question that you really want to answer before you decide on a method?
That's a hypothesis that you're talking about, forming a hypothesis.
Hypothesis is a big premise. Sometimes very early you don't have a hypothesis. You just have an idea. Sometimes you don't even have an idea. A hypothesis comes in just before you're ready to figure your concept out. So really, what are you trying to test is what you force yourself to pick and choose.
Can I give her one suggestion for your jewelry? If you're really scared of what people will copy. I was just thinking, supposing you are creating one product today, and instead of just having that one product, you create 5 products with slight variations, and you launch one at a time. You know what I mean? One at a time within, say, 10 days. So that gives you variation and people find it new.
Thank you. It's very difficult.
No, slight variation, maybe a little color here, a little there. In jewelry it works. It works. If it has a blue pearl, I pick up that blue pearl and I want only that. Tomorrow I will like the same thing with a white pearl.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah, we do that. But it's that constantly your mind needs to work. Okay, one white here, one blue here, one green here, one red here.
We are always looking for some variation.
Yeah, it works. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So coming back to a few more topics which I have kind of listed on, I just thought I'd take a view on this. I have had people saying pricing is another issue. I wanted to know if pricing works as a challenge for many, and should we do something around pricing? Maybe a small workshop. A lot of times you come up with a product and says, how do I price this? So that's the whole maths of how do you come to
it comes in
pricing.
research, right? Part of research.
Yeah, but there's a whole strategy to it and there's a whole science to it. So for people who've done it, we can kind of help you to come with some kind of thumb rules. We can do a workshop with you, which will help you. So of course, then you will have to take those thumb rules and apply it to your business. We won't be really spoon feeding you, but we'll kind of give you some, rules, so to say, where you can start looking at. The other thing was around business modeling, business planning. I know we can struggle. Do we want to do something like that?
I like business planning, business modeling.
I would like to like it.
Both. Yeah, Vela would love it.
So
See, in fact, with business planning, you can also incorporate something related to export, import, like gradually, business planning, how we are launching the business, if nationally in India, if somebody is, just planning to
So
expand
you're
it.
basically saying if you're going global, how
Yeah,
you, so
yeah.
that
Yes,
of course becomes a
yes.
different concept in terms of scaling and going global
Yeah.
and the whole rules to that import export. And I would suggest that if anybody is really looking at anything to do with import export, I think IMC does a lot of good workshops around that. So we